And so again, welcome everyone to Wishlist Granted, Top User Requests and Implemented Features. My name is Richard Taylor with Ideate Software, and thanks so much for joining me today. So some housekeeping items. Everyone is in a listen-only mode. So if you want to ask a question, you can find that question panel, and I'll be reviewing questions throughout the presentation. And if I don't get to all the questions, I will follow up after the presentation as well. Also, this webinar is being recorded, and if you register for it, obviously you're here, so you will receive a link with the recording in a few days. Also, because this particular presentation has a lot of webinar, or I should say not website links that I've embedded, I've taken the PowerPoint presentation that you see right now, and I've made that into a PDF. And that PDF is available under the handouts for the GoToWebinar panel. So if you want to download all of the links that I'm showing, that's available too. Okay, so Ideate Software is all about simplifying your Revit data challenges. As hopefully most of you know, we create 5 add-on solutions to Revit that are all about increasing productivity and increasing data management of the Revit model. So just real quickly, who is Ideate Software? We are a global company. We are releasing on the last 4 releases of Revit, and you probably know that Revit 2023 was just released yesterday. So we are currently under development of our Revit 2023 solutions. Those will be coming soon. And in that case, then we'll kind of move the needle a little bit, and we'll be supporting 2020, 21, 22, and 23. We are supporting 6 languages across the globe. So if you are, for instance, using the French language version of Revit or the German language version as an example, our software will automatically be translated into those languages. So again, it's always good to visit the ideatesoftware.com website. And speaking of that, I'm going to switch over to that real quickly. And there is, if you go to the main Ideate Software website, you'll see that there's solutions organized around our products, but there's this blog. And I'm going to be talking a lot about this blog today because what we've done is we've organized our blog into several, or you can see here, there's categories, right? One of those is called Series Wish List Granted. So last year, once a month, we did a blog that basically said, okay, this was from a Revit Ideas, or it was from an Autodesk forum, or maybe it was from the wish list, again, for the Revit roadmap. And we took those ideas and we translated that into our software as a feature enhancement or just a feature request. And so that's really what I'm going to be summarizing today is many of these blog articles. So I wanted you to be able to know where this is located. And of course, we're not going to be able to get to everything today, but I'm going to try my best to do as much as possible. All right, so let's go back to the presentation here. And so why do we develop software on top of Revit? What are the main solutions we're trying to solve? And I kind of look at this as 2 large, I'll call it buckets of information, right? One, you can kind of split our applications into data management, project auditing, model, and data health. And we're all about the data. We're very adept at managing the Revit data. And you're going to see a lot of solutions in regards to that for data management, project auditing, model, and data health. And then the second sort of area or bucket is really model productivity. Basically, how can you be more efficient with Revit? We love Revit. It's a wonderful solution, but there are many things that people have been asking for a number of years, and we've tried to respond to that to increase everyone's productivity. So those are really the 2 sort of main areas that all of our solutions are trying to solve. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is a product called Ideate Apps. And Ideate Apps is a collection of productivity tools, like I just said, for all Revit users. It doesn't matter if you're an engineer, architect, construction professional, structural engineer. These tools allow you to, I think, ease many of the workflows that people have been asking for in Revit for many years. So let's get right into it. The first, I put these sort of three together, which is, the request to duplicate a sheet in Revit, the request to have control over the view title alignment, and an interesting request to be able to create a whole series of views based on the room. So you can just say, like, I want the room, and then you want to create all 4 elevations and maybe a floor plan, a ceiling plan, and a 3D model. But first off, I'm going to show you how this works. And this is where I said you could download the document that has all of these links in it. So when I click on the blog itself, right, it's going to go to that wish list that says, oh, well, you know what? This is how can we duplicate a Revit sheet with Ideate Clone? And many of you may know that Autodesk implemented partially this duplicate sheet within Revit 2022.1, and then they've done some enhancements with the recent 2023. However, we feel that our solution is so much more robust. And the big thing is it's also going back to earlier versions. If you've got Revit 20, 19, 20, 21, 22, it's working for you. So each one of these blogs, you'll notice that there's another hyperlink, and that hyperlink will typically be 1, 2, or multiple links to either an Autodesk forum, or in this particular case, the Revit ideas. And hopefully this will load in here in a second. So this is the Revit community ideas page that probably most of you know about. It talks about, well, here's a request to duplicate a sheet, right? And so then there's actually, it says that it was implemented, which it was in 2022.1, but we feel like it wasn't maybe implemented as robust as it could be. But there are most of these are not implemented. You'll see in the Revit sort of requests, and you'll see other comments and so forth. So what we've done is in the blog article itself, we've linked to duplicate sheets, and sometimes there's actually multiple requests for that. So let's go ahead and just take a look at that. So I'm going to switch over here to Revit. Currently, today, I'm using Revit 2022. I haven't upgraded to 2023 since it was just yesterday. So all of the Ideate Software solutions will be available in the Ideate Software ribbon panel. So you can go over here to Ideate Software, and you can see that all of the applications. And what we're talking about first is Ideate Apps. So basically, everything that's in orange and light blue are these productivity tools. When you install Ideate Apps, it's one product, but it's actually currently 9 tools that you have available. So the first thing I thought we'd do is go over here to Sheet Manager and just create a sheet before we actually clone it, right? So what we're going to do is this Sheet Manager shows me all of the views, unplaced views, as you see here on the left-hand side, all of the sheets on the right-hand side. So if I want to create a new sheet, I can very easily do that by selecting that I want to create a new sheet, and I'll just come over here and right-click, and I'll rename this. And I've got some coordination views, so this is going to be my coordination sheet. So I'll just go ahead and say that's coordination. Then under my floor plans, as you see, I've already created quite a few different views that have not yet been placed on the sheet. So I'm going to take this coordination west, and I'm going to drag it over to the sheet. So all you have to do is drag and drop views from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. And if you'd like to come over here, let's say to the schedules, you can do the same thing with the room type schedule, let's say, and I'm going to click that over and do the same thing and place it on Z.2. Now, this there's a sheet in the background here, right, that I sort of started with that has this elevation view. Let me get this up. It's a signage elevation. And maybe I want to move that signage elevation from one sheet to another. Again, the Sheet Manager allows me to do that very, very easily. So what I'm going to do is expand this and take the elevation signage and just drag it over to coordination. Now, you know that schedules can be on multiple sheets, but elevations, plans, and details can only be on one sheet. So it removes it from the finishes sheet and puts it onto the coordination sheet. So if I double click, that's going to open up this sheet that I just created. So now here's where before I clone it, I want to get everything in the right location. So what I'm going to do is move the plan in the upper left here. I'm going to take the schedule that I dragged and dropped on the sheet, move it down over here to the left. I'm going to take that signage elevation that I moved from the one sheet and bring that over. And I'm also going to take this view title and move it up to the right. Okay, so now I've done some sort of view manipulation, if you will, and I've got the sheet the way that I want. All I have to do over here is now come over and say right click and clone that sheet. So clone is duplicating. And what we're doing is we're giving you the ability to not only say that you want a new view, right, like a duplicate with detailing, but you can also swap the view at the same time, which is really important. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create this as a structure sheet, right? And instead of the first floor plan coordination west, there is actually a first floor structure west. So I'm going to select that view. So I'm basically swapping the coordination floor plan to the structural floor plan. Now, the elevation signage is an interior elevation, so it's looking for views that are all interior elevations, right? But I actually want to swap it with a building elevation. So I'm going to untick this show similar views, which gives me the ability to kind of swap it with any view. And in this case, I have an exterior elevation, which is this west elevation for structure. And then the schedule, it actually can be, as I mentioned, schedules and legends can be on multiple sheets. But in this case, I want to have more of a structural schedule. So I'm going to have this minimum compressive strength. So, before I select OK or clone here, basically what I'm doing is I'm swapping these 3 viewports with these 3 new viewports, and I'm aligning the plan views based on model coordinates. If I untick this, it's going to align the plan views based on the centroid of the view. But in this case, I want to keep that model coordinate view alignment. And as you saw, if I did want to, say, take the coordination west and duplicate it, I have that ability to say duplicate view, duplicate with detailing, duplicate as a dependent if I want. But in this case, I want to keep, swap it with that structural. So now, once I select clone, it's going to basically take from the existing sheet. It actually does have this, it's giving me this little warning, which is just really a notice that says, hey, the schedule was created with Ideate Sticky. That's great. So now it's creating this new Z.4 coordination. All right, I'm going to close this. I'm going to say this is done, basically. And you'll notice that here was our original Z.2 coordination with the plan, schedule, this signage elevation. I moved the title up into the upper right. And then the structure that I just created also has now a minimum compressive strength. This was the sticky schedule. That's why I got that little notice. And I got a nice building elevation and then a structural plan. And it kept the first floor structure west title. It also moved that. Because when we align, which it did an automatic align, you'll notice that we have the ability to match plan, view, title, position. So that was a request also that was from that request for in the wish list request. So let's go back to the presentation. So I basically just showed you how to duplicate a Revit sheet. This one I won't necessarily link to, but this was the one about view title alignment. And then this one is quite interesting. If you click on this one, this is an interesting wish list that I called a room with a view. But if you say, look at the request, you click here, this again goes out to the Autodesk Revit wish lists or community. And you notice here it says that this person said, it was back in 2017. This says gathering support because it's not available in Revit yet. I wish that there was a simple way to click on a room and then develop a view so you can know all the elements or walls, or have all of the, there's kind of a similar one that talks about having all of the elevation views created from one click. So let's switch back over here to Revit and let's see how we've implemented that particular wish list. So if we come over here to our floor plans, and I'm going to go to the architecture and zoom in, and I'm going to just pick it's probably maybe not politically correct to pick a toilet or a restroom, but it's nice because there's it's a small room and there's actually some sinks and other toilet fixtures and so forth that will come up when I do the elevation views. So this is where we would go up to our Ideate View Creator, right? And this was something we implemented last December. So if you have been a long time View Creator or Ideate Apps user, you may not be familiar with this new Room Views method. You click on Room Views, you say Next, and then it basically says, well, what room do you want? There's already some rooms that have elevation, so I'm going to untick that. And I'm going to come down here to that men's toilet number 123. So that's the room I want, just to show you for demonstration purposes. Obviously, you can pick multiple rooms at the same time. I created a rule that I called room setup. And I'll just show you that rule. If I edit this, basically it tells me what the title block is. It tells me, basically the view types. So I created a specific type that had a view template assigned to it, and I called it room plan, room ceiling, and then I just used interior elevation and then 3D room. But you can set all this up very easily, and that's what I did, is I just set it up and I called it room setup. All right, so then I say next, and here's where from the floor plan, I want the call out to be on the architecture plan, and the ceiling plan, I only really have one other ceiling plan, which is the coordination plan, so I'm just going to select that, say next, and it's going to go ahead and build all of those views that are necessary. So the 4 elevation views, the call out of the plan view, call out of this reflected ceiling plan, and a 3D view. So I'm going to, and it makes this is really nice. It automatically names it men's toilet number 123 with all the elevation names as you see here. And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and create those 7 views. It automatically creates a sheet as well. I'm not going to rename the sheet. I'll just accept it. And then when I open up, or it automatically opens up that sheet, you see here we have, again, it's in our sheet manager. Here's our men's toilet number 123 that was created. And you have the 4 elevation views of the men's toilet or restroom. You see that I zoom in there, some nice tile on the wall there. But then I also created, like I said, as part of the view template, I assigned it to these view types. So I said I wanted the floor plans to be a little bit larger, and the same thing with the 3D view, and I wanted it to be displayed as a shaded view. So really nice, this is just one view that was basically kind of a single click that I could set up, or I should say one room, and it was able to create all these different views and automatically place them on a sheet. So I think that's a great piece of functionality and a nice wish list request. Okay, I don't see any questions in the chat panel, so I'm going to continue on here. The next item is this easily find elements that may be hidden in your Revit model. So let's click on that wish list blog that I wrote. And you'll notice here, this was, it says, hey, there's a wish list granted. Why is a Revit element hidden in a view? So if you come down here, it basically says there's a couple of them that were requests. Why is an element hidden? I can't find why an element is hidden. Request for hidden elements. So if you click on one, just as an example, again, this goes out to the Autodesk community website. And you'll see here is I spend more time trying to find and unhide elements. Is there a way to hide something? So we read through this, and we see a lot of these visibility issues and requests. So what we did is we created a piece of software called Ideate X-Ray that's part of our Ideate apps. So if I come over here, and let's cancel that, and let's zoom up, and I'm like, why aren't these plumbing fixtures visible in this view? So I can come over here and I can say, you know what, turn on reveal hidden elements. Still doesn't show me anything, because reveal hidden elements will only show if the category is turned off or if that element has been, hidden by a right click hide in view. So kind of an override. But there are over 50 different ways you can hide an element. maybe based on the work set, based on the design option, based on the phase, and the list goes on and on. So this is where Ideate X-Ray will help you. You can come over here to Ideate X-Ray. All right, you can search for a small area in the target view, and you can say, well, you know what? I'm really trying to look for a toilet there. It's going to show me all things that are both visible and invisible in that selection area. So if I go to plumbing fixtures there, it says, well, there's a toilet, right? There's a toilet seat and the actual toilet itself. So I just want the toilet itself, let's say. And I say, find the element. So I'm asking X-Ray to tell me why it's hidden. Well, in fact, X-Ray says not only is there one or two, but there's actually three reasons why this element is hidden. The first is the work set's not open. So there's a show me button that will actually bring up the appropriate dialog. So in this case, oh, there's the plumbing fixtures. I see it's not opened. I want to open that, and that should display. Well, gee, it still doesn't display because there's two more reasons. First is it's hidden by category. If the category is being driven by a view template, it will tell me that and tell me that I need to go modify that view template. But in this case, it's not being driven by a view template, so I can just fix and turn the category on. Notice that the plumbing fixture, the toilet next door, displayed, but not the one I'm looking for. Because in this particular case, it was also a right-click override, hide in view. So now if I hit fix, it's going to turn that override off, and now that displays. So this is just an example of that you can sort of stack these together and understand why something is not visible in a particular view. And you'll see here I've got a number of issues set up here, annotation crop, model crop, filtering, design options. So it's such a great way to be able to understand why something doesn't display. So let's switch back here. And I've got a couple other wish list request items that are tied into Ideate apps. And that is the request to be able to renumber almost any Revit element with intelligent rules, and the request to have an intelligent spell checker that spell checks all open sheets and views and all schedules. And so I have, again, links to those. And I just was, in the essence of time, I was kind of worried that if I showed you those, that I was going to go run over. So I'm going to just, for right now, I might come back to those, but I want to, again, if you have that document, you want to download the document, you can see these two requests as well and how we've addressed those with Ideate apps. Okay, now we're going to move on to another solution from Ideate Software called Ideate Explore. Ideate Explore is our model browser. It allows you to understand every single element in your Revit project. So it's showing you all instances, it's allowing you to select and swap elements, and it has a built-in warnings management system. So if you look at the wish list items here, one of them was, well, the request to audit Revit models and the request to quickly review and fix warnings. So let's click on this one for the request to audit models. And so here's the blog that I wrote. And you see here, this links to specific ideas forms for requests to select all instances, enhance selection, select multiple instances, and have the ability to select all revision clouds. So we've addressed all of that. And then I'm going to switch back over here to the quickly review and fix warnings. So that was another request that we did. And let's jump to that website, that blog, I should say. So there is Better Revit Warnings Management. Well, you see here, these are all, again, links. The Revit Warnings dialog needs an overhaul, provide better tools for managing and visualizing warnings. So each one of these like hyperlinks goes out to a, if I click here, you'll see it will go out to that Revit wish list item from Autodesk or the Revit forum. You see here, warnings dialog box. This person wrote a lot about what they would like to request. So if you switch over here now back to Revit, we're going to go over and I'm going to show you some features here for Ideate Explorer. So we're going to come over to Ideate Explorer and that ability to search and find elements, right? So it's showing me in this view, I have 4,000 elements, but I can also look at this for the entire project. and say, oh, I've got 35,000 elements. If I want to search for a door detail, I can just type that in, and I see that I've got a number of things, but I've got these CAD imports that are door details. And the first one, if I double click, it opens up a drafting view that has the AutoCAD file for door details. That looks great. But why do I have two instances of it? If I double click, it says, hey, it's temporarily hidden, I should say. So I want to open up the view and turn on reveal hidden elements because that category looks like it had been turned off. Well, first of all, you can see that I'm in the site plan. There shouldn't be door details in the site plan. So someone maybe copied this by mistake, did a right click, hide in view, then forgot about it. So we want to make sure that we remove that CAD import from that view. I can then turn off the reveal hidden elements, do a right click, zoom to fit, and I know I have a nice site plan with no hidden CAD files. So again, giving you that ability to search on elements very easily. I'm going to clear the selection here and again go back. I can also look at things based on not only the category, but the level or the phase. Like if I go to level, right, I can come over here to the top of footing and I see that there's a door on the top of the footing, which doesn't seem to be correct for me. So if I go over here and double click, I'm going to zoom in on that door, and it did kind of zoom into the area. And if I click here, I have this set for transparency, but sometimes it's kind of hard to see these elements. So what you can do is actually create and just access the tools in Revit, the selection box. So you can see that, oh, well, that's a problem, right? That shouldn't be. I can just come over here to the properties palette and say, oh, that door is on the top of footing. It really should be on the first floor instead. So let's make that change, that move. So I go ahead and make the change. And now that's no longer, if I look at the information here, the barn door is actually now on level 1 as opposed to the top of footing. So it's always showing me, like I said, all this great information. So let's switch back over here to category, and I'll switch over to the view, and I'll just turn off the section box in that view, and we'll go back and fit the whole view. So, lots of selection methods here and understanding the Revit model and auditing the model. But as I said, there's this great warnings management too. When you select on warnings, you can basically assign a color code to warnings, whether it's red for high, yellow for medium, or green for a lower ranked warning. And all this is completely customizable, and you can share this, across your firm. So you see here, here's where I'm the ranking file that I'm looking at and which warnings I've ranked as high, medium, and low for my particular case. So highlighted floors overlap, right? So I'm going to expand on this, and I'm going to look at the two individual items. And you can see as I'm clicking back and forth, it's highlighting those. But what I really want to do is select on both of them with a control and say, I would like to isolate those elements, because when I isolate them, I can actually see the problem a little bit easier. And you can see right away, there's the problem where they're conflicting. And so I have access to every single command in Revit. So, I can still have Ideate Explorer open. I'm going to go to edit the boundary, and I'm going to bring the boundary back so it's not conflicting anymore. And I'm going to say, okay, and don't attach the floor. And notice that Revit warning goes away. So then we'll come back here and I'll say reset my temporary hide isolate. So we're going to go back to the full model view. There's another warning here that I have a number of identical instances in the same location. This one I can right click and actually tell it to either retain the originals or retain the latest. In this case, I know that, let's say that I'm pretty confident they got duplicated by mistake. Some curtain wall mullions got duplicated, some pieces of furniture are duplicated in the same location. So I can go ahead and remove those. Once I remove that, notice I have no more high ranked warnings in my model. I only have yellow and green, and I can continue to review that information. If I want to just look at, for instance, low ranked warnings, I can do that. Or if I want to take line and sketch as slightly off axis, maybe I'm not even worried about that, let's say, I can go ahead and hide that warning. So, but I can always come back here and say, well, what warnings did I hide? Okay, there was one that I did, or, show me all the warnings now. So, and the count doesn't take into account the one I hid. So now it's basically saying you have 70 warnings that you need to manage or continue to work on. But again, it's a great way to be able to understand, fix these warnings. You can keep this dialog open on this screen or even on your second screen and continue to work. So those are two of sort of wish list requests for Ideate Explorer. So let's look at Ideate Style Manager. This is another solution from Ideate Software. Ideate Style Manager was created in order to analyze and understand styles that are used across your Revit model. And those styles could be object styles, line patterns, fill patterns, even things like fonts, text, let's say view types and so forth. And so you can merge and purge these, and you can delete unused styles that are not necessary. So in this wish list item here, if we go click on this, and again go to the blog that I wrote, and I think I wrote most of these, so that's why I can say I wrote them. One of our, a couple other of my colleagues, I think maybe did one or two, but the lion's share I think I wrote. So you'll see here, there's a request in the Ideate, in the Revit forum for purging unused fill patterns, purging unused line patterns, and so forth. So we looked at all that. You can see, you can click on these and see where the request is coming from. So now let's switch back over here to Revit, and we're going to come back over. So, you know, we talked a little bit about Ideate Apps, we talked a little bit about Ideate Explorer, but now we're moving on to Ideate Style Manager. And this Style Manager, again, was specifically created to manage those styles. So the first thing we want to do is maybe look at fill patterns, and I want to look at fill patterns that have been defined as duplicate. So if I tick this isolate duplicates, it's going to give me a nice little color code. So everything that's red, right, is the same style. Everything that's green is the same style. So you can kind of see where this, you know, we have a vertical wood lowercase, that's a model pattern, and a vertical wood uppercase, and actually vertical wood 1. And this can happen a lot when you copy, let's say, families from one project to another, or you copy information. You can start to get styles introduced into your project that aren't meeting your standards. So the first thing you might look at is, well, what does this question mark mean? It means that we haven't analyzed it. I don't know if this is even in use, for instance. So if I double click on this vertical wood lowercase, it's used in 2 families and 2 materials. If I double click on this uppercase vertical wood, it's used in 2 element types. So what I want to do now is, you know, I don't want to delete these because there's things that are using those styles, but I want to merge them together. So I'm going to take the one that has the families and the materials, and I'm going to merge it into the other one. So in this case, we can kind of isolate this pretty easily and say there's the vertical wood uppercase, and I'm going to merge that together. So now when I merge those 2 elements together, it's actually purging out the one that is now no longer used. So you'll notice it doesn't appear in my duplicate list anymore because it's not duplicated. It's not one of the isolate duplicate ones. So if I untick this and now look at vertical wood, there's my vertical wood model drafting pattern, right? And I can double click now, and instead of the 4 and 2, it's going to be used by 6 because the 2 were merged together. So we now have 2 families, 2 materials, 2 element types. And then I can rename this, and I can say that this is going to be my approved vertical wood, right? And now that is renamed in both, you know, in the families and the materials and the element types. If I go to the family and I edit the family, this is the family as it's loaded in the project, right? So here is the that family, and you'll notice here is the material. It says approved vertical wood. If I double click, it's actually being used in the door panel and this default material. So I can even drill down into the family to see where this information is used. And I always get the question asked, you know, it's changing the family as it's loaded into the Revit model, but it's not changing the external RFA family. So once you update this information, you'll probably want to save that out as a new RFA file. So all of this works the same way, where you can review, you know, different, like I said, object styles, line styles, patterns, materials, filters, you know, are they being used, right? In this case, there's only one view filter that's being, it's a rated 1 hour, and it's being used in these views. But the view templates, right? I have this architectural plan that's being used in some views, but let's say this alt elevation, and this, let's say I'm going to do a control here, architectural reflected ceiling plan and architectural section, let's just say. I know that those are not being used anywhere. And so if I know that I'm never going to use them, I can delete them and purge them out of my Revit project. And that's going to keep things cleaner and leaner for all of this. So you see all of these, like I said, these work very similar. And so that's kind of one of the wish list requests for Ideate Style Manager. I'm going to come back to my presentation here. And another product that we have is called Ideate Sticky. Ideate Sticky allows you to live link Excel, Word, and PDF documents into your Revit project. And you'll see that there was a wish list request for this. Again, I'm going to click on the hyperlink here, which goes to the blog that I wrote about people were requesting the ability to link Excel, link PDF, and link Word documents into Revit. So if you say link Excel spreadsheet into Revit, you can click that and again go out to the, why is it still not possible to import a link in Excel spreadsheet into Revit, and other comments and so forth. And you can see the same kinds of requests for PDF and for Word. So let's come back over here to Revit again. Let's come over here to a view, and let's create a new view. And I could have done that with our view creator or our sheet manager, but since it was just a simple view with a sheet, I'll just go ahead and come up here to the ribbon panel to do that. And so now I want to link some Excel spreadsheets and maybe some Word documents into this. So here's where we can come over to Ideate Sticky. So Ideate Sticky allows me to link in documents. And the first one I'm going to do is you'll see here Excel schedules. And then we also have Word, PDF, and Excel as images. So the first, I'm going to show you how you can link it in as a Revit schedule using the schedule header. You're going to say create, and the source I have here on my desktop, some sample files. So I'm going to come over here to my Phillips lighting spec. So this is an Excel, right? And this has multiple worksheets of the different, this manufacturer, Phillips Lighting, has, chloride, day bright, Guardco, Lightalier, and so forth. So I'm going to pick the Lightalier line, and I'm going to call this, instead of sticky, I can give it any name I want. So I'm going to say Manufact for Phillips Lighting, let's say, as an example, and say close. So what I've done is now I've linked that Excel spreadsheet. And in fact, this is a Revit schedule, right? It's using the schedule header. If I come over here to my project browser and I look at the schedules, you will notice that it, where I go, there it is right there, Manufact Phillips Lightalier. It shows up in the schedule. So let's say, how do you manipulate this? Like, what if I wanted to change the Excel document itself? So let's go to Sticky. All right, so I bring up that dialog where I can click here and open up the source file. In this case, it's Excel, and you see here's the different lines. So I'm going to go to Phillips Lightalier, and we'll say Phillips Lightalier for wish list. And I'm also going to do some changes here. I'm going to say, you know what, maybe this, instead of a green color, is going to be, actually, I don't want the text, I'm sorry. I want the cell itself to be a different color. So we'll do that. And people always ask me, well, how do I control what I'm seeing in Revit? So right now it's showing the print region, but maybe this general purpose downlighting, I don't really care about. I only want to show track heads, commercial downlighting. So what I'm going to do is highlight those cells. So basically I'm making a region, and I'm going to call it, let's say, rich, R for rich region. And then we're going to go ahead and save that. So I did it, just to recap, I made a change to the text, I made a change to the color of the cell, and I made a change to the area that I'm looking at. So now back over here, I'm going to say update from, and the reason I'm going to say update from is because now I can pick a different region. So I'm going to pick that rich R region, and again, it's still coming from Philips Lavalier. It's still coming from this Excel file out on the desktop. So I select OK, close, and there we have only the 3 lights, and we have the new kind of salmon or peachy color, I guess, and the new information for this Philips Lavalier for Wishlist. So let's go back over to Sticky, and the same can hold true of Word and PDF documents. So if I say, you know what, let's create, and again, let's go out to our desktop samples, and we have a couple of different samples. Like for Word, there's general notes, right, and there's specifications. If I come down here, I might want my specifications doc. So I'm going to say great. So it reads how many pages there are. And so I can actually have all 7, or I can do like 1,2, or I can say 1-3. I only want pages 1 through 3 as an example. And so then I'm going to say close. Those are now coming in as images, but those images are linked and can be updated. So again, the same way, we're going to zoom into that interior architectural woodwork. We're going to go back to Sticky. And we're going to go here, and I'm going to click on this and say, open the file. And so here's the actual Word document. So interior architectural woodwork for wish list presentation. And say save. We'll close the document. And now just update. And there you see, it updates the image. Interior architectural woodwork for wish list presentation. So, again, the PDF works the exact same way, that you can keep those documents up to date, whether they're PDF or whether they're Word. You can also bring in Excel, not as a schedule header, but as an image as well. And I don't see any questions right now. And I said that I might be able to go back and talk about the Ideate app. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that before I get to Ideate Bimling, because I do have a couple minutes. So I'm going to go back here, and we're going to open up a file that I have, which is this, let's say, not Sheet Manager Arc, Ideate Apps Architecture. And I just wanted to show you a couple items, again, concerning the wish list request for renumbering. So, the request was, I'd like to be able to renumber things and be able to renumber things very easily. So we've included that with our Ideate apps. And I'm going to go over here and select renumber. And again, this is completely customizable. So you can renumber almost anything, and you can pull information from the Revit database. So in this case, I want to pull information about rooms. And I say, you know what, I want it to be room number 600 as an example. Start at 600 and start renumbering items. So the easiest way is just to select the elements, right? And I can actually come over here and say, well, here's 600, here's 601, here's 602, here's 603, here's 604. Or maybe I want to create a path and start numbering. So I want to start in this vestibule here. Oops, select path crossing. I want to start in this vestibule, come down over here, and anytime that it crosses through a room, I'm going to renumber that. So I'll just pick this sort of interesting path that I want to renumber, and now you'll see that all of those, it starts out with 600 and goes all the way. If I want to skip a particular element, I can ignore that, or I can even reverse the direction. So instead of doing kind of clockwise, it does counterclockwise. So I'm going to reverse that back, say accept the changes. And then I can switch from the rooms to a door, where maybe I want to have the information coming from the room itself, right? And so I want to start numbering. And here it's picking up on the room, but it's also picking up on the from room and to room characteristics. And so I might want to change that actually in the database where the from room and to room swings are. So in this case, I'm going to say there. And maybe that's what is good. I'm going to go ahead and accept the changes. So you see that, like for instance, in this AV Tech, it's room number, if I pick the tag here, it's room number 610, but you have 610A, the door swinging in, and 610B. If there's only one door, you have the ability to say, well, I don't want the A, I just want it to be 610. So there's a lot of manipulation or customization that you can do in those particular rules. And Greg said he missed part of the presentation, and will it be recorded? And absolutely, Greg, that's a great question. It is being recorded and it will be available for playback in a few days. So I just wanted to be able to show that. And I also mentioned that there was the spell check. So let's just go ahead and select on spell check here too as well. Notice that I can check all open sheets and views, all sheets in the sheet list, and all schedules. So I'm going to go ahead and spell check just the schedules. And then it's basically going through and it says, well, do you want to, then this was corridor, right? Which is okay. So I'm just going to ignore it. And I'm going to, some of these, like if it's education, I could potentially, like marketing, I could add that to the dictionary if I want and say, you know what, that means don't check it again. It's fine. And so I'm going to see that right now I'm checking these schedules. And, RFI isn't there, so I'm just going to ignore that. And see if there's let's just say this was not supposed to be FFE. It actually says changing it to fee. Maybe this is I don't know, feedback or something, but I can make that change. Oh, there's one, of course, that comes up with schedule. So I can actually change that to the word schedule and change that. Now it's actually telling me that this is being basically reviewed by Ideate Sticky, or it's being managed by Ideate Sticky, meaning that the original misspelled word was actually in Excel. And so that you really want to go and make that change in Excel as well, so that you're not potentially having that, that misspelled word come back into your document if you link and update it. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and stop that. And you can see that there's a nice, it says it was 7 of 9 schedules have been checked. There were 2,389 values. We modified one element. We added one word to the dictionary, and there were 4 warnings. And you can actually export this report as well. So really nice and robust spell check engine. So let's go ahead and fit this here and go back to the presentation. So I also have a couple wish list items in regards to both Ideate BIMlink and another product I'm going to talk about in just a second. But I didn't have those encapsulated in this presentation. Again, I thought maybe that was gonna, it would be too much to present in an hour, but I just wanted to talk about Ideate BIMlink. It is our 5th application that I mentioned to you. And so it allows you to extract information from the Revit model, all the data. And again, this is, that sort of bucket of information when I talked about like data management. So Ideate BIMlink is definitely in that data management category, allowing you to extract almost all of the data, send it to Excel, be able to review or manipulate that, and then input that back into Revit to modify it or make changes. And so instead of the wish list item, I just thought I'd have a couple of the quotes here that, we have a number of quotes for people that love it, work with it every day, and, see the power of Ideate BIMlink to manage your Revit data. All right, and I told maybe a little fib here, because I remember at the very beginning I said Ideate Software has 5 applications. We actually have 5 main applications, but we have another one that we've developed over the last couple of years called Ideate Automation. And what Ideate Automation does is it basically automates the tasks for the other 5. So it's kind of like a Dynamo script in a way, but for, let's say, extracting information to Excel, like using Ideate BIMlink. Or maybe you notice how I did the fill patterns with Ideate Style Manager. Maybe you wanted to review that, all of your fill patterns at 2 a.m. And be able to extract a report. Maybe you wanted to use the spell check as another good example. You wanted to spell check all of your schedules across 10 different projects at 3 a.m. And that's what Ideate Automation allows you to do, is be able to set this up and be able to automate basically all of the other 5 solutions. And that's why I said it's kind of an addition, because Ideate automation needs either Ideate BIMlink or Ideate Explorer or Ideate Style Manager or Ideate Apps in order to function, right? Because you're automating one of those processes that I was showing you today. So again, this is something that's also on our website, and you may want to review that. And again, you've got some quotes here for a large user in the UK that's using Ideate automation to, again, smooth out some of their workflows and automate some of those tasks that they do again and again. So, oh, good. I've got some questions here. I can do that. So I'm going to do my summary, and then I'll get to the questions. So just, I gave you kind of an encapsulated overview of the 5+1 Ideate software applications, and allowing you to really reduce your time spent on these repetitive tasks and on these productivity tasks. A lot of the requests that you saw with Ideate apps were specifically about this manual repetitive tasks in Revit and smoothing those out, making those much easier. And then I have there in yellow, just responding to requests. And you'll see that, if you go to that blog series and you look at the wish list requests, there's a whole, like I said, we did one per month last year of all the requests that we responded to, specifically that we reviewed from the Autodesk forums and the Autodesk wish list items. So let me just look at the questions here. Is there another, this is a good one from Karina, is there another way to renumber elements based on other things like the select path crossing? Yes. So, I mean, basically in Renumber, you have different methods, right, that you can renumber. So as I was mentioning, you can pick the element, in just a second as it's reading the rules here. You can actually just pick the element. A select path by crossing means that a good example is that it crosses this space here where I didn't have to actually click inside this room. But if I wanted to actually only have it renumber the items where I clicked, like if I did select path vertex and I said start numbering and I pick this, you're going to see that, oh, those are doors. Let's say go to rooms here and say, let's say 600 and select path vertex, start numbering and pick that. It's going to be a much smaller list because it's only going to renumber the items where I actually clicked and there's a vertex of that line. So in this case, it's this vestibule, it's this room. It's not going to get this room next door. It would only pick up this classroom and so forth. So I could say accept those changes and make those changes. So you can see there's different methods. If we switch on like the doors, it doesn't really matter the direction that I go because I want the doors to be renumbered based on the view. So that's why this is available, auto number by view, so that it's going to, the rule is set up that it picks the room number and then says A, B, C, D. So it's not going in a specific direction, if you will. So these, auto number by view, vertex, crossing, and select element are the four methods that you can use to remember elements within Revit. And then Tom asked, in BIMlink, if a value is modified in Excel and pushed back into Revit, will it actually update the element and potentially change the model geometry? Yes, Tom, it will. So again, it depends on the, what you're changing, but basically anything that can be changed within Revit, right, by a parameter can also be changed externally by BIMlink. You send that out to Excel. Maybe you have again, the width of the doors as an example, as a parameter, that then when you import that parameter is going to be updated to a new value, and then the geometry would change. So of course, there are many things that are either read-only or not able to be modified just because it's a Revit characteristic. But if it can be changed in Revit, Ideate BIMlink will allow you to sort of mass change or bulk change those items, and using Excel to do that. So Ji Young asks, is Ideate automation an additional cost? That is a great question, and the answer is yes. If you talk about the bundle, we have our Ideate software bundle of the 5 solutions. it is not included in that bundle. It is an additional charge, and that's available on our website. And we are still kind of formulating maybe some of the the cost for that particular application. But the best thing, I think, if you're interested, is to talk to one of the Ideate Software account representatives or sales managers. Okay, great. Eric has a really good question. He's like, do you see this as being implemented for everyone across an organization, or maybe just BIM managers? And there's kind of a split answer to that. I think that the Ideate apps is, as I mentioned at the very beginning, for everyone, every single user. I think Explorer and Sticky are available for everyone. No matter what you're doing in Revit, no matter your level of expertise in Revit, those are excellent. I will say that Ideate BIM Link and Ideate Style Manager tend to be used by more model managers or BIM managers, because as you can imagine with Style Manager, just as using an example, if you're changing object styles and patterns and filled regions and this kind of information, you're really kind of looking at the guts of the Revit model and you're cleaning it up. And so you want to make sure that you have someone that's doing that is responsible for model management and understands maybe the implications. Because if it's, let's say your average user might come in and delete a bunch of stuff and not realize that there's an impact to that later on. So in general, I would say Style Manager and BIM Link are more BIM manager tools. All of the rest of the tools are really able to be used by everyone. And that's what we see primarily. So that's a great question. So Randall said, what's the latest version of Ideate? Well, right now, currently, it is Revit 2022. As you see, that's what I'm using today. We are expecting to release our 2023 within the Q2 timeframe. So we are actually actively developing that right now. And so I'm going to say fairly soon will be available for Revit 2020, 21, 22, and 23. So when we release the new version in this Q2 that will align with Revit 2023, we will also update all the versions for 2020, 21, and 22 as well. So that's a great question. All right, well, thank you so much. Let me see if I wanted to see if I missed any questions. I think I got most of them. Let's just check back here. Oh, so this was a good one from Matterson. It's only checking this, the spell check, does it only check the sticky schedules? No, it's checking all schedules. The only thing the reason I mentioned Ideate Sticky was just that particular word was misspelled in an Excel schedule that was being linked by Ideate Sticky. So it's just telling me that it's making the change, but in fact, if I update the sticky schedule, as you saw me do, I might overwrite that spelling change because the original Excel file might still have it misspelled. And so that's what I was referring to. But in fact, the Ideate spell check will do all Revit schedules. It doesn't matter if it's sticky or not, but that's a great question. And I think that's most. Okay, well, I have 59 minutes after the hour, so we are right on track, and I was able to get to the additional couple Ideate apps requests as well. So please go to ideatesoftware.com. You can download that handout in the web interface right now, the go-to a webinar interface that has all those links. And again, if I switch over here to my browser, it's basically, and again, you go to Ideate Software. So I'm going to go just show you, if you come to Ideate Software, the main page, you can click on blog, and then underneath blog, we have these series, and you'll see that there is a support, a training, but also this wish list granted series. And that's basically what I was summarizing today. Many of these wish lists granted that came directly from the Revit Ideas pages, and how we've translated that into a specific feature or enhancement within our Ideate software solutions. So please take a look at that. One last thing, as I mentioned, there is a very, very short survey at the end. So when you exit this webinar, it will ask you if you want to answer the 4 questions, I believe, and we'd really appreciate that. so that we can focus these presentations onto what you'd like to see. So thank you so much for the excellent questions. Thank you so much for the time and attention. I really appreciate it. And from everyone at Ideate Software, thank you and have a good day.